Everything seems lost. It's a deep human question, especially, when facing just unimaginable hardship.
Hmm.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It's an extraordinary book. It doesn't really give you easy answers, but it offers a completely revolutionary way to look at purpose.
Yeah, it really does. And we're talking about a work that's so profoundly shaped by the author's own life. Viktor Frankl, he was a psychiatrist, sure, but maybe more importantly, he survived several Nazi concentration camps, Auschwitz included. So his insights, they weren't just theories developed in an office, they were forged right there in the absolute extremity of human suffering.
Right. And what makes the book so compelling, I think, is that it has this dual nature. On one hand, it's this incredibly moving memoir of his time in the camps, just harrowing stuff. And then at the same time, it introduces this whole psychological approach, logotherapy.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is really to pull out the most vital nuggets from this powerful source. We want to show you how Frankl's ideas about meaning, about suffering, resilience, how incredibly relevant they still are for your life today. It's a way to get well informed on a topic that, honestly, it just hits different.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Part one is about life in the camps.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you read memoirs about extreme situations, and often the focus is purely physical survival. But Frankl's account,
Yeah.
what stands out for you there?
Well, what immediately jumps out is his focus, not just on the physical struggle, but the internal battle, the psychological, the emotional side. He talks about these moments, tiny moments, where prisoners found meaning, things that seem so small from the outside, like watching a beautiful sunset, just for a second, or maybe picturing the face of someone they loved. In a system designed to strip away every last bit of dignity, these little things became like anchors for the human spirit.
Hmm. And it's right there, in that section, dealing with the absolute unimaginable, that he writes what might be one of the most powerful sentences ever. He says, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances."
Wow. Yeah. And that quote, it's not just some abstract philosophical point, is it? It's absolutely rooted in his lived reality. He didn't just think about this freedom, he lived it. He embodied it under the worst pressure imaginable. It's one thing to talk about resilience, quite another to actually demonstrate it like that in a concentration camp. Makes you really pause and think about our own choices, even in everyday frustrations.
Absolutely. And that leads us nicely into part two, where he lays out logotherapy. This is his core theory, and it really does shift how we think about what drives us as humans. He basically says our primary drive isn't pleasure, like Freud thought, or power, like Adler suggested. It's meaning, the search for meaning itself. That's quite a statement, isn't it?
It is. It's a huge departure, and I think profoundly liberating. Frankl talks about three main ways we can find this meaning. First, through work or creating something, doing something significant. Second, through love, experiencing something or encountering someone deeply, connecting. And third, and this is crucial, through suffering. Particularly, he says, when suffering is unavoidable. He argues that how we respond to that unavoidable suffering is where we can find profound meaning.
Which brings us to that really radical shift in perspective he offers. Instead of us asking, what do I want from life? Frankl flips it. He says, essentially, life is asking you what meaning will you give to your experiences.
That really puts the ball in your court, doesn't it? Especially when you, the listener, are facing something tough. It flips the script entirely. Exactly. It flips the script. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the implication is huge. It suggests that maybe we don't need to just get over grief or pain. Instead, we can learn to actually grow through it by finding meaning within that very experience. It's not about making the pain disappear, but weaving it into a larger, more purposeful story of your life.
So, okay, that sounds profound in the context of Frankl's experience, but how do we connect this to our everyday lives? I mean, most of us aren't facing concentration camps. How can these big ideas actually reshape how we see, normal day-to-day stuff?
Well, it invites you to look at the small, mundane things differently. Find meaning there. Think about, routine conversations you have, maybe even disagreements. Instead of just seeing a disagreement as conflict, maybe see it as a chance for deeper understanding in a relationship, or just appreciating a quiet moment, doing a simple task well. It's about consciously reflecting and imbuing those moments with purpose.
That's a great point. But, a lot of us are driven by achievement, by wanting to control things, get things done. That feels like a primary driver sometimes. How does Frankl's idea fit with that? Does it mean achievement is, meaningless?
Not necessarily meaningless, no. But Frankl might suggest that achievement without a connection to deeper purpose can feel, well, a bit empty, hollow. He helps us see that meaning can be found just as much, maybe even more, in seemingly small acts, like really being there for a friend or patiently helping a colleague at work, things that contribute to something beyond just your own success. And, this perspective can also foster more patience, patience with ourselves, with situations. Maybe the search itself, the journey of figuring things out, that can be meaningful, not just getting the answer right away.
That really resonates and leads us to some of those incredibly memorable lines from Frankl. Here's one I think about a lot. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
Hmm. Yeah, that directly connects what we were saying. True resilience. It comes from that inner shift, doesn't it? It's not about bending the world to your will, but adjusting your own internal landscape when the external one won't budge.
Hmm.
And another one related to that internal process, that inner fire. He says, "What is to give light must endure burning."
Oof, that image. Enduring the burning to give light. It's so powerful. It really speaks to this idea that transformation, our ability to maybe illuminate things for others or ourselves, often comes directly through navigating pain and hardship. It's not despite it, but because of it.
Absolutely. So, thinking about all this, why does this book, Man's Search for Meaning, still resonate so strongly today,
Yeah.
decades later? I think it's because it speaks directly to anyone feeling a bit lost or uncertain, in their job, their relationships, who they are, or even just asking that fundamental question, what's the point of all this?
Yeah. And it's important to stress, Frankl's book doesn't give you easy, simplistic answers. No quick fixes here. But what it does so powerfully is remind you that meaning is always possible, even in the absolute worst circumstances imaginable, and sometimes, maybe especially within them.
Which leaves us with a really compelling thought to maybe sit with. Perhaps at the end of the day, what makes life truly worth living isn't really the endless chase for happiness, but actually the discovery and the sometimes difficult, courageous creation of meaning.
So we really encourage you listening to this to take a moment and reflect. Reflect on the meaning you find, or maybe could find, in your own experiences, even the challenging ones. What questions has this deep dive sparked for you?
And just to close, let's remember Frankel's own powerful summary of this whole idea. Those who have a why to live can bear almost anyhow.